Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now this is a bit of an add-on to the Tweekery video I did on isolation platforms. Partly because after that I was offered to try an Audite Acoustics platform. Andrew rang me and we sort of organised and whatever, and he came into the shop and we had a chat. And interesting guy, really interesting guy. It's good actually. There's not many left now, but there's people who run companies who are obsessed with the fine detail of stuff and getting the best sound out of things, and quite often have come from trying to create a great sound in their own system and then deciding perhaps there was a marketplace for what they're making. And that's where Andrew's come from with Audite. It's very much making things for his own hi-fi system, making discoveries and deciding this is great, I need to pursue this. So yeah, I had a great conversation with him and he's left me with a platform. I've been trying it under all sorts of different things over the past few weeks. And this is basically a video about my findings with it, really. Now, isolation, I can't remember what I talked about in the original Tweekery thing, really, but there's sort of two aspects of isolation, two avenues you can go down. What you're trying to achieve in one respect is a minimal point contact between whatever you're trying to isolate and the thing it's sitting on. And the obvious way to do that is spikes. I mean, that's been the sort of general way of doing things, that you put spikes between tiny point contacts, so minimal transmission of vibration. The actual reality of it is that they're not very good at low frequency stuff, but they do isolate quite well with mid-band and low, that sort of high frequency. The other way to look at this is to put like subthermic feet under things, or suspension-y type things, or just things that move but at lower frequencies, and they're very good at filtering out low frequency. There's not many platforms out there that I can think of which actually manage to sort of achieve both goals. There's lots of platforms out there that either do one or the other, and you'll find quite often in that situation you'll find that as far as sound quality goes, you'll get some improvement. You might get a bit more clarity, but sometimes the bass goes a bit strange, or they suck out the dynamics, or it sounds lovely and dynamic but then they go bright. I mean, generally most isolation is a benefit, but it's not always give and give. Sometimes there's a bit of give and a bit of take. So you always have to try these things and see what's going on. And the first platform I came across which sort of fixed both areas was the sonority, which I showed one on the previous video. What I should have done is put that out again just to show, because it's quite interesting the way that works. It's got point contact and it's got movement. And it does that by using ball bearings. And it's two sheets of laminate, quite close together. The top sheet and the bottom sheet have got sort of opposing cups, sort of hollowed out into the material. And there's ball bearings between. And so the whole thing rocks on ball bearings. So it's got a low frequency movement and it's got very small contact point. And that was one of the first platforms I found you could put under anything, and it lifted the dynamics, it lifted the clarity, it lifted everything. It was really impressive. They're not cheap, and a lot of the people who use them, I know one guy in particular, and I've sold 7, 8, 9 of them to now, hates them with a vengeance. He said every time I change a cable, you can hear the sound of ball bearings, and it's, oh, which platform was that from? And I can understand it really, because they're very stable up to a point, but if you push them beyond a certain point, then you hear the skitter of ball bearings. I can't really see a way around that particularly. I think it's just it's the nature of the design. So when Andrew dropped this platform off, which is called the Brij, or something like the Brij. Forgive me, Andrew. I should look this up on the website before I came up. Brij, which is B-R-I-G. Possibly. I'll stick it on the bottom of here in a minute. Actually, I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember what the actual spelling of Brij is. And I think the reason that the name, where the name Brij came from, because the original design does look very much like a bridge. It's got the two pillars at either side and I suspect the things in between. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a sec. Andrew's does the same thing. It's got point contact and it's got low frequency movement as well. So I had quite high expectations of this, because this is basically a sonority platform, but it doesn't use ball bearings. Now, the cleverness of this design is a bit overwhelming, really. You look at it, I keep looking at it and thinking, I don't understand how this works. And you have to study it to find out how it works. What I'll do in a minute, I'll turn the camera. It's I keep glancing over there because it's over there. It's a little bit of genius actually. Actually had the guy in from Lateral Tables earlier today, and he looked at it and he was saying, "How does that work? Oh, that's really clever. That's really clever." And he's an engineer. He's a very clever chap as well. So it's one of them things. So what I'll do, I'll turn the camera around and we'll have a proper look at it. You can't easily see how it works, but I'll try and explain it in my sort of basic, sort of way. Before we look, this isn't a finished version. I actually think this version looks a little bit clunky and a little bit, it's a little bit sort of too much platform. But I've seen the CAD drawings of what it's going to become, and it's a much more elegant thing, really. Yeah, so I'll turn the camera around and I'll have a proper look at it. I'll try and put, I might show it with I've got a Riga Planer 8 on it. I might show it with that sat on it, and then I'll probably put it more into the light so we can have a proper look. Anyway, so a quick drink and then I'll turn the camera around. Okay, so here it is. We've got an Atacama double width rack, and the big white sort of structure on the right hand side with Riga P8 on it is the Audite Brij. Probably the wrong deck to put on there because the P8 is tiny, so don't think this is a massive, because it is a standard. That is a sort of standard width base on there. So if you put something like a Nottingham on there, you wouldn't actually really see the edges of this particularly. It would pretty well fill it. So it's probably doing it a bit of a disservice having that on it, really. If you get down, lower it down, keeping the camera work somewhere sensible. If you look underneath, there's quite a lot going on under there. Now we've got the fine point contact is very difficult to show. The movement is fairly straightforward. I mean, it's got quite a lot. See the top plate moves quite a bit actually. If you give it a knock, but it's a very, very low frequency movement. What's interesting about this, and this is what sort of bends your brain a little bit, is this platform is hanging from that platform. I'll just say that again. This platform is hanging from that platform. So it's not, because with suspension and sort of this sort of thing, what you don't want really is something sitting on a spring and bouncing that way. It's always better to hang from. It's much more stable. What I'll need to do is move this more into the light and just see if I can actually try and point out what's going on, which, it's going to be interesting. Actually, I don't know. I haven't thought this one through yet, but let's just see if we can make it a bit more obvious. Okay, so just move more into the light now so we can have a proper look at it. Audite Acoustics there, just a nice little badge. Big difference with this and the Sonority is the Sonority has the ball bearings between here, so everything rocks, but also has 3 pillars on the top with a ball bearing on top as an isolator. That's great, except a lot of equipment doesn't match into it. You'll find that there might be a grill under there, or there's a foot in the way or something. So it's not always that easy to put things onto Sonorities. Whereas this is just a nice flat platform and it'll take anything. So it's not an issue. So that's a big bonus with this. Now looking underneath, let's try and work out how how the top can be hanging from the bottom. And I'll try in my clunky way to try and explain what's going on. Basically this part here is attached to this part with these sort of rods, which I suppose again is acting as a bit of an isolation. This part here, you can follow my finger there, is attached to the base, and the thing that's doing the job is there's a thread made of a material called Isol X, so it's ISOL/X, which is a very, very strong thread, I suppose. It's sort of, I can't think what he said it was made out of, really, but it's, if you go on their website and have a look, it's a very informative website, all of which I've now forgotten. But anyway, you can't really see the thread, but it's within that little gap there, that's where all the movement is. So it is hanging from a 0.5 millimetre thread. There's 4 of them all the way around. Apparently the load capacity of this is something like 30 kilos, so it's not as though there's any weakness there. It's an incredibly strong material that's used. So your point contact is in here, which gives you this nice 3 Hertz movement. And yeah, it's just, the whole thing just is, so you've got your low frequency and your high frequency, so isolation. You can put pretty much anything on it you want. Really, it's just so impressive. The whole thing is so impressive. And I was quite shocked at the price, because I thought, knowing things in hi-fi and pricing of things like this, and knowing how much work Andrew has put into this, I expected it to be nearly 4 times the price it is. As it turns out, it's half the price of a Sonority. So it's, like I say, it's probably, I think it's about £500 or so. At the moment of speaking, which is, what we're on, 24th of August 22, £500. And the original version, which is still in production, which was the original Brij, has outriggers on the side, and everything is done within the 2 outriggers at the side, which makes it very wide. Very, very, much slimmer than this, but very, very wide. So that's still in production, that's a little bit more, that's about another £100 extra. No, like I said, this is a sort of pre-production prototype. It's sort of got the principles of how it, the sound quality and everything is sort of sorted out, that it works. But it isn't really sort of finished visually. I've seen a CAD drawing of what it's going to end up looking like, and most of this under here is cut away. And it's about, I think Andrew says, about 1 inch shallower. Because at the moment I think it looks a little bit ungainly, just a little bit. I mean, I think in a sort of crazy high-end system, it would look out of place. But it's at a price where you could put this into more sort of sensible setups with, an Atoll CD player or a Riga amp or something like that, and it wouldn't, it would give you enough benefit to justify itself. But it looks a little bit, sort of as it is, it almost looks a little bit too high-end. Sort of, like I said, the later version, the thing it's developing into is a little bit more probably domestically acceptable, I suppose, if it needs to be. I don't know whether it needs to be honest. So anyway, I've got to just turn the camera around again, and I'll need to sit on a chair because I'm sat on the floor, and the hope of getting up now is looking a bit minimal. So the Audite acoustic Brij, what did I think of it? Really impressed, to be honest. I mean, like I say, because it had overtones of the Sonority, and I know I keep harping on about the Sonority, but I've sold a lot of those over the past few years. It's always been the go-to platform, even though it's a bit quirky. This seems to give all the benefits of the Sonority without the quirkiness, really. It's a much easier product to use. There's no limit to what you can put on it, no limit to, it's not going to start falling apart if you don't use it correctly. So you can't really go wrong with it. Sonically, it's amazing. I mean, again, it's I've tried all sorts of different bits of equipment under it. Surprisingly, the CD, big difference. But then again, I did find that with the Sonority. The first thing I actually tried under a Sonority was an MCDX2 CD player, and it lifted that hugely. Much more dynamic, much more body to the sound and everything. First thing I tried was just a basic sort of little Atoll CD100 CD player, and it made it sound like the next model above. It gave it much more scale, which is, why that happens with a digital product, I don't know, but it's just always, there always seems to be something with isolation that will, surprises you. Also tried it with record players. I've just had it with the P8 in here. I've set a system up in here and been listening to it quite extensively and started changing things, moving things around, getting everything perfect. And then when it was all just right, suddenly came into my mind, well, let's put the platform on and see what that does. And that made the biggest difference in the room. After all my little tweaks and moving things around, the platform was the impressive one. Made the band sound, instead of just being between the speakers and hardly any 3D-ness about them, because I'm using Riga RX5s, which don't necessarily image brilliantly. Suddenly it was a 3-dimensional, spaced out image. Backing vocals were really clean on it and all that sort of thing. So it's clearing away a lot of the sort of dross in the background of the music somehow. It's almost like cleaning, I've said this before, cleaning the windows sort of effect. And that's because it's not letting this vibration circulate. It's not getting it from what it's sat on back up into the deck. There's none of this sort of blurring of detail that you get. And that gives you the better dynamic and everything else. So it's really, it seems like a lot of money. I mean, these are, like I say, about, as of today, which I've forgotten already what day today is, but 24th of August we're on, aren't we? Yeah, about £500. seems like a lot of money, but for the performance difference, I mean, I wouldn't say it made a P8 sound like a P10, it didn't, but it moved it a lot closer to the performance of a P10, which is quite a feat, to be honest. It is quite a feat from 2 pieces of fibreboard and 4 bits of thread. Obviously with a lot of design work behind as well, but yeah, so on that note, thanks Andrew for letting me borrow this. Obviously at some point there'll be a final production version of this out. I will be buying one, so I've said it on film now, so I've got to do it, because I think this will do really well, and I need one in the demonstration room. After sort of using it in the demonstration room, I can't really be without it, so I'm going to have to get one in at some point. So yeah, that's it. That's my review. I want one. Don't often say that, but yeah, I do want one. We need one in the shop. Yeah, so hope you like that one. Do get some interesting things through the shop actually to try out. Sometimes not so good, sometimes better, sometimes an absolute gem like this one was. Like I say, if you want to know more about it, if you perhaps drop me an email or a phone call, probably preferably email actually, because I can sort of sit and give a proper response to emails. But like I say, yeah, if you want to try one out, give me a call. We should be able to arrange that without any problem. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. Don't forget to give me a like or a subscribe, which always helps. Can't believe the amount of subscriptions. It's still, every time I look at it, there seems to be another 100 on there. Yeah, thanks very much for everything, and I'll see you in a future video. Thank you very much.